All right, for more now, I'm joined by Bradley Bowman. He's with the Center on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Brad, it's good to see you again. Good to have you with us. What do you expect to happen in the next few days, particularly after we heard what the president said there?
Thanks for the opportunity to join you again. The president is clearly doing what Ronald Reagan's old Secretary of State George Shultz said, and that is cast the shadow of power over the bargaining table. And my goodness, what a shadow of power this is. This is the Abraham Carrier Strike Group, which has dozens of fighter jets, F-35s and F-18s, electronic warfare aircraft, helicopters, accompanied by a few destroyers, some destroyers already in the region, in addition to U.S. Air Force aircraft, including F-15s. This is an extraordinary array of combat power. President Trump is clearly trying to use that combat power to get the regime in Iran to come in good faith to the negotiating table. The problem is the negotiating table is where the regime, in my view, has been the strongest and Washington has been the weakest, and America has been most likely to be duped.
On his Truth Social platform, the president posted, and earlier today, a massive armada is heading to Iran. And further on, he says it's like with Venezuela. It is ready, willing, and able to rapidly fulfill its mission with speed and violence if necessary. So, Brad, when you see that posted by the president, I mean, what do you think is the likelihood that we're going to see something happen in Iran, in Tehran, similar to what we saw in Caracas, Venezuela, with Nicolas Maduro?
Well, obviously, military, as your question implies, military operations against Iran would be quite different than what we saw in Venezuela, which was extraordinary but unique, but unlike what we'd see in Iran. There's important context here. The context is that the president warned the regime not to hurt the protesters. Mm-hmm. And then the regime proceeded to murder/kill thousands of protesters. So they heard the president's red line and warning, they shrugged, and they proceeded to blow him off. I've been doing this U.S. foreign policy thing for a while, and I advise against red lines and warnings as a general rule, because if you don't back them up, you hurt your own credibility and you start to get more bad behavior that requires action. So the president has issued the red line, not a bad red line. Don't hurt the innocent protesters who simply want a government that stops murdering them. But now that he's issued it, he better back it up. He better back it up in some form. And so I think he's going to feel both policy and political pressure to make sure that he's not viewed as all talk.
Yeah, and I'm sure, Brad, that his advisors must be telling him, you don't want to be another Jimmy Carter. We know what happened with President Carter when he sent helicopters in to rescue the American hostages in Iran. It was a disaster. He doesn't want that to happen on his watch, does he?
He doesn't, but the comparison breaks down a little bit because the U.S. military is far more capable and ready now than it was during that period because of, the Reagan buildup and the defense spending, and that was on full display in Venezuela. No other military could have done that, and no other military in the world can do what we're currently assembling in the Middle East. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean things can go wrong, won't go wrong, and do go wrong, but the Carter analogies break down a little bit. In the short here, let's remember, it's not just about Iran's nuclear program. We don't want the world's worst state sponsor of terrorism to acquire the most dangerous weapon, of course, but that's not enough. We also need them to end their systematic support for terrorism as the leading source of terrorism in the Middle East and leading state sponsor of terrorism. And we need to address their ballistic missile program. And if you think that Iran's going to agree to ending their pursuit and progress toward a nuclear weapons program, they're going to stop their support for terrorism, and they're going to stop their ballistic missile program and stop persecuting the Iranian people, I got a bridge to sell you because it would require them to be something that they're not. That's why the negotiating table is such dangerous ground for the United States of America, because they will dupe us and get us to agree to a deal that is contrary to regional American and European interests. And we will not have a better future in a more stable Middle East, I predict, with confidence, until the Iranian people finally have a government that's interested in their welfare rather than the export of terrorism.
Let me get your reaction to what we've been seeing from Iran. They've reacted to President Trump's post, also on social media. The Iran mission to the UN wrote the following: Iran stands ready for dialogue based on mutual respect and interest, but if pushed, it will defend itself and respond like never before. Brett, what options, if any, does the regime in Tehran have?
The regime has options, most of which they did not exercise during the 12-day war for a variety of reasons we can talk about. They launched roughly a dozen missiles that LUD'd our base in Qatar, which we shot down. But nonetheless, they were trying to kill people there. They have a degraded terror proxy network. Hezbollah is degraded. Hamas is degraded, but you got the militias in Iraq, you got the Houthis in Yemen. They can conduct a variety of attacks on our embassies and consulates. They could, and I, if I had to guess, I would say they're going to do more this time than they did during the 12-day war, because they will perceive that this time it's existential. It's the survival of the regime. And so if they have any tools, I would be surprised if they don't play them. They're trying to scare us into not doing what the president's warnings require. And we should not take those warnings lightly. That's why the Pentagon has been wise to be sending in all kinds of air and missile defense systems. Prudence requires us to expect that a lot of our bases would come under attack. Possibly we want to be prepared, but the president should be making clear that if you do that, it's going to be even worse for you, and they will only respect and fear strength. And if they think we're all talk, we're simply going to get more aggression.
All right, clear analysis tonight from Brad Bowman. Brad, as always, we appreciate your time and your insights. Thank you.
Thank you.